Okay, we're live. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 214. We're going to call this Zoom to in-person meetings. And if you know what we're talking about, you know why this is a big deal. So let's first say hi. I'm Hyam. Tom is somewhere over there.
I'm here somewhere. I don't know. It's the internet. I'm everywhere.
Well, say your public service announcement first.
Yeah, so if you are in Ohio, near the Dayton, Kettering-ish area, full disclosure, I used to run this group. They are a fully registered charity. They're a great bunch of InfoSec professionals and people who are just interested in furthering computer security and education. The Ohio InfoSec Forum is hosting their 2019 Ohio InfoSec Anniversary Conference. It is a free one-day event. You walk up, registration at the door. They can only fit 110 people in there. You're probably not going to have to camp out in tents. Don't do anything crazy like that. But Saturday starts at 9 a.m. There is breakfast and lunch provided. You've got great talks like U-Boot to Root, secrets discussion, DLP demystified, and more. There's raffle events. A $20 donation is suggested, but not required. So if you're in the area, you've got a spare day, or you just want to hang out with some InfoSec people and get some cool hacker inside knowledge, this is a great bunch of people, and I can put 100% of my recommendation behind attending this conference. If you are interested in continuing education credits, stuff like that to keep up your certs or whatever you have to do for your line of work, those are provided at the end. So get to it. You can head over to ohioinfosec.org, and it should be the first post on the page. Check it out.
And it is in our show notes, so you will. So it's definitely there. As soon as we publish, you will see it. Anyway, so we woke up, I don't know, Monday morning, Tuesday morning to Zoom, which I actually only recently heard about, saying that they're spying on your webcams. And of course, that's not what actually is going on, but not too far off. And I had to remember, what is Zoom again? Oh, it's that video conferencing app. And I said, it's about time somebody went public, not with this actual issue, but with the idea that you're installing basically a man in the middle to turn on your webcams and make your life easier. I looked at it. What did you think was going to happen? Well, all of that happened. So Tom saw this first because I was busy, and so I'll let him start explaining it.
Yeah, so let's get the instructions out there first. If you have Zoom and you're on a Mac, honestly, really, if you're on anything, I would uninstall it, and even more than uninstall it, I would start looking up this information, check the show notes, join our WhatsApp group. We've got instructions in there on how to actually remove this thing, because it installs a local web server that's not removed by uninstalling. If this thing is on your machine and you haven't gotten the updates from Apple or your other OS providers, it turns out that any web page with an iframe can enable and start streaming your webcam. As a matter of fact, to show off this vulnerability, the researchers started a party line. So you could go to a website that demonstrated the attack and jump onto a video call with a bunch of other people who are trying out the hack. Really cool way to demonstrate.
Can we make this like chat roulette?
It basically was for a while. Unfortunately, I was working and didn't get the chance to join the party line, but I hear it was a crazy party. So what happened was Zoom, we should probably go back even further. When you click a link on a web page that wants to open a local application, usually they have URL handlers. Like you'll see something like Skype : Slack : stuff like this. And what that tells your browser is that it wants to call out to a local application on your computer to do something. Now, your browser's got good security built in. Your browser should, all the major ones do, pop up a little window that says, hey, this web page wants to open up Skype or Zoom or Slack or whatever you wanted to open, right? Is that okay? And you click OK, and then it happens. Apparently, Zoom thought that this was too many clicks for their users. So what they did is, along with the video conferencing application, they installed a local web server on your machine as well. And what happened is you can send someone a Zoom link, they click it, and instead of it using like Zoom : / or another normal handler, instead it calls out to localhost on a specific port and says, "Hey, Zoom application, can you start the call?" And then it decides to launch the application and saves you a click and enables your webcam by default in the process. The issue comes in where you can throw in a Zoom link in an iframe, and without the user doing anything or clicking to open a meeting or knowing what they're doing, they could just be browsing a random blog post. Their webcam is now open and attached to whatever meeting was opened by the web page. Super dangerous. They literally can turn on your webcam and microphone whenever they want. Any web page, thanks to Zoom.
So, dealing with a whole bunch of tech support issues recently, the whole issue of a pop-up popping up and giving some ominous warning, like asking for permissions, scares a lot of people. I can understand. I don't agree with it, but I can understand why someone may say, you know what? I don't want to have to explain to the person, hey, we're going to turn on your webcam. Would you like to agree to that? They won't understand that that's the way you talk to people. And we're going to turn on your microphone because that's how, again, you have to listen and hear people. So I can see them trying to make this as zero friction as possible, especially when you're on tech support or anything like this. The problem is that it's ripe for abuse, as we can see, and there is no way to stop it for the people who actually care about that.
So, and this, unfortunately, gets even worse, amazingly enough. So Zoom actually white labels and sells this software to other companies trying to run meeting software, trying to run a meetings company. Now, white labeling a product happens a lot. You usually hear about it when there's a generic company that builds something, whether it's widgets, a light bulb, meeting conference software, and makes it so that you can slap your brand on the front of their product and sell it as if it were your own. You have nothing to do with the manufacturing. You just want to rebrand and basically be a middleman.
So some example. Let's give some examples. Like Kodak and Polaroid right now. Kodak was the camera company, but now they put out TVs and other things that have nothing to do with Kodak. The Kodak brand is dead. The problem is people trust that. Same with Polaroid, and the people do that. Your smart TV, or not your smart TVs, your flat screen TVs. There's only like 4 panel manufacturers. Probably Apple, probably Samsung, probably Panasonic and Sony, like Vizio and Hisense and TCL and all the others. They're just buying panels from other companies and just branding it as their own.
Yeah, this happens. White labeling products happens literally all the time. The general economy in the world is filled with middlemen and very few original manufacturers. So there are companies out there, and we have confirmed, we meaning this researcher has confirmed, that RingCentral is actually a white labeled Zoom system. So it is also impacted by this. So let's get to the good news so we don't freak you out. Just to clear the air so you don't run off screaming. The good news is that Zoom has pushed an update to fix this, but if you uninstalled the Zoom product, it turns out it didn't actually uninstall the local web server, so you're still completely vulnerable. So that's annoying. But Apple has gone ahead and through their gatekeeper, their anti-malware program, pushed a silent update today. We just got the word about 3 hours ago that completely removes this local web server. Now, I don't know if it covers RingCentral and the other white labeled systems, but for Zoom, we know it does. So if you're running a Mac, Apple has decided to just silently protect you from this vulnerability. I think that's in their wheelhouse. Some people think it's an overreach. They're basically destroying software that's not theirs. I think they're closing a nasty vulnerability that could hurt their users, but to each their own. So it has been patched, but we can get into the gory details of how this happened. And more importantly, Zoom's response to the security notification here in just a second.
So before we get there, I have two Macs. I have a very old, crusty laptop that I use to figure out who the actor or actress is in a TV show, and I have the one that I'm recording on now. And so the one downstairs in front of the TV didn't have any Zoom software. So in the Medium post that we put, they give you basically put down your list of web hosts, and I didn't get any. So I was probably good there. I come up to my my current iMac. By the way, that laptop is actually not updated. It's 3 or 4 versions ago because Apple won't support more recent ones. So on my iMac, I remember last week I had to do a Zoom meeting, but I only did it through the browser. I don't remember installing it. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But I ran this command, this list of servers, and it was there. And then I went and I said, wait a second, I see Zoom. So I uninstall it. I run the command again. It was there. So this is, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes ago. So I don't know if Apple pushed it to everyone yet or needs a restart. But in following the Medium post at the bottom, they tell you what to run. And I did it. And now it is no longer there. I do not think I have Zoom on my system.
Yeah, there's basically how you check. And in the Medium post, it's in the show notes. It's super easy to follow along with. It will give you a command that basically shows, what is,
LSOF.
Yep.
I guess it's list of servers.
Not entirely. So LSOF will basically list open file handles. Now, -I will show you basically the you can get a process ID of something listening on a specific port. So Zoom, this application, lists on a specific port, and you can see if there's a process running, listening for traffic on that specific port. Then you can kill the process and delete all the files associated with it. Luckily, they're all contained in just one directory, so it's pretty easy to get rid of.
So I did that. I did what they said. So hopefully I'll restart when we're done tonight, and hopefully everything is gone. Now I do want to say it sounds like it's just turning on the webcam and the microphone, right? That's the
Yep.
I don't want to say that's all it's doing, but that's this very simple problem.
We'll get into that here in a minute, because it turns out that it doesn't just have that capability. So Zoom does run on Linux, and you should probably remove it if you're on Linux. But the bad thing is Zoom had a disclosed remote code execution vulnerability due to the way they were building things on Linux. They built it just wrong. And it turns out we did get some very recent news today that there is a remote code execution on most likely all other platforms as well. So not only can somebody hot mic you and turn on your webcam without you knowing, they could also do remote code execution, which is quite literally the worst vulnerability there is. It basically means somebody can run whatever code they want on your machine just for fun.
Usually when you get a Patch Tuesday with Microsoft, so that when you get all those updates, a significant amount of those are remote code execution by doing something. Yep.
And if this could be triggered by just visiting the wrong web page that's trying to exploit this. It is nasty. Now, we have given the vast majority of information up front. What I really wanted to dig into is not necessarily the vulnerability itself, because vulnerabilities happen, bugs happen, and what differentiates good companies and bad companies is how they react to that. So, for instance, let's take a good company. When you report a vulnerability to LastPass, their security teams are on it. I remember one researcher reported something to LastPass, and within 6 hours, the vulnerability was identified, confirmed, patched, and the researcher paid. Like, it was, bar none, one of the fastest responses to a security disclosure I have ever heard of in all of my years in tech. Seriously impressive. Because bugs happen, right? Things will be vulnerable. We will find, chinks in the armor in ways to get into systems. And you can't prevent literally everything, right? It's a losing battle, and you have to win every single time, or else you failed and the system's compromised. So what you can do, what you can try to hope for and strive for, is that your company's security team or your programmers will react in such a way that it's fast, easy, and effective to get these holes closed as soon as possible, and really to work with the researchers and make it easy for them to work with you. What Zoom did is not that at all. What Zoom did is basically they said, no, this is how it's supposed to work. We don't really think it's a vulnerability. And not only that, the researcher requested a security contact on Twitter, got no response whatsoever. Contacted via email with a 90-day public disclosure deadline. It's basically saying, we've talked about this on the show, where a researcher says, okay, you have 90 days. At the end of 90 days, I will make this issue public. You have 90 days, 3 months. 3 months to fix this. It shouldn't be that hard. The researcher also offered a quick fix solution. So Zoom did offer a bug bounty with some stipulations. They said, sure, we'll pay you for this vulnerability, but you are not allowed to publicly disclose this, even after we patch it. You are not allowed to tell anyone about it, which means that, whether they patch it or not, you can't say anything. And that is bad for security researchers. Security researchers, they live and die by their reputation. And, part of that reputation building is publicly disclosing vulnerabilities, is giving companies a chance to fix things and then saying, hey, look at this cool attack I found. Look at how I helped a company fix it. And now look at this thing. It doesn't work anymore, but this is the work I did. It's quite literally an online living resume. It's fantastic. It's how the security industry functions. So they went back and forth forever. The 90-day public disclosure deadline ends, and their quick fix was worked around. It was disclosed even after the 90-day deadline, and only after the researcher lit a fire under them by making a public blog post about it was this actually fixed. It required public disclosure.
And the problem is that by publicly disclosing it, people can then bang on that method and see what other companies are doing. That again, it helps the community at whole try to find other issues. And by hiding it, it's just, okay, you did it for us, and we're going to give you $30,000, $50,000, whatever it is. And it's like, okay, why not help the community at whole? Because guess what, Zoom, you said you're a white label. What are you going to do? You just don't want to have to tell your other vendors that they have to do this, and that's the problem. They wanted to keep it quiet so they don't have to do more work and get other people up in arms or have a GDPR violation or anything like that.
Yeah. So Zoom has quickly gotten their PR machine to work. And they suggest, we're happy to work with the security community, get all this stuff fixed. We're happy to push out these emergency updates. And it turns out that it really looks like they only decided to take this seriously, after the fire was lit under them by this public blog post by the security researcher, who, by the way, we should probably mention, this is Jonathan Leitschuh. I totally butchered that spelling, and I apologize, Jonathan. I'm the worst. Jonathan Leitschuh?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with you on that.
I'm just the worst American. I am terrible. Regardless, so after Jonathan lit a fire under Zoom, they kind of started to get to work, but then it turns out that we didn't know about this, but Apple in the background took notice of this vulnerability, and they said, hey, look, either you're going to update and remove this, or you're not, and we're going to forcibly remove it anyway. So it turns out that both things happened with a Zoom update, which unfortunately you would only get if you still had the main application installed. Let's say you uninstalled the main Zoom application, you're still running that local web server. You're still running the components that make you vulnerable. So uninstalling just the app without doing these terminal commands to remove that web server directory, it doesn't protect you at all. So you are still vulnerable. So that's one of the reasons that Apple said, look, we're just killing this. We're just going to remove it, and it's gone.
So I think it was the right thing for Apple to do and say, we're going to do this to take it out because it is, I'm going to say, pro privacy. I do understand that Apple can use this in a bad way and go after other types of cookies and everything else. But I think here's a good steward of what we should do. We saw this vulnerability. It looks like it was going nowhere. We have a vested interest to protect our users' privacy and everything else. So we're going to actively do it. And I think that I want to say that Apple did the right thing. Now, I mean, they could do something wrong tomorrow, but for right now, I want to say that Apple did do the right thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. So there's a Hacker News thread about this going on right now with about 100 comments on it. Half of them are thanking Apple, saying that they did, the right thing. They removed a vulnerability. They took, a really nasty bug in a piece of software, and they're protecting the users of their operating system. The other half of comments are saying that Apple has reached into people's computers, computers that these people own, and instead of letting people use the system they want to use, they actually went and removed software that somebody might have installed on purpose and had some overreach through their malware prevention program to basically overreach into somebody else's systems where they didn't have authority. I don't agree with the second group at all. This is a security vulnerability through and through. You can hot mic and hot webcam people with it. Honestly, any way you could get rid of this, even if there were like an illegal worm that infected Macs just to remove this piece of software, I'd be okay with it. And we've discussed router viruses like that have infected routers just to close security holes. I'm okay with the Batman approach here.
Look, it's I would hope that Windows does it also, but for right now, Apple's doing it. I'm sure Linux, I'm sure all of them, all the different operating systems care that their software is secure because, again, they have a vested interest to keep it there so they can say, we care about your privacy. We care about your privacy versus we're going to let bad guy attack because you know what? It's freedom of speech. Like I can see that also. I can see somebody saying, "Oh, it's like you said, it's freedom of speech," and they're censoring conservative voices or whatever people want to say. And the answer is no. They're trying to keep people safe.
So there are a host of other vulnerabilities here. The web server doesn't just allow you to hot mic people. It allows you to basically execute a denial of service on your operating system. It allows you to install other packages. And not only that, like if you click on a Zoom link after you've uninstalled the application, the web server can reinstall the application. It just does it. Like no prompts, no nothing. Congratulations, you've got Zoom again. While that might be very convenient, it's also super, super shady, and it has the behavior of malware. You clicked a link and somehow you got software, that's malware. Additionally, it looks like you might be able to leverage this to install other binaries in the system. We do know from other security researchers that there is a remote code execution vulnerability, which we've spoken about. And on top of that, one of their download points actually was set to expire. The DNS was going to expire. They're going to lose control of that domain, meaning that anyone who registered that domain could put any piece of software there they wanted, and your Zoom internal web server would be very helpful in installing anything those people wanted you to install. Just being helpful.
Again, I go back to this whole thing of I had to walk someone today through set it to using their Nest smart thermostat and going through all the menus and everything else. And there was a lot of, do you want this? Do you want that? And the lady goes, the person was saying, I literally don't even want this thermostat. I just want it to be 2 temperatures. X temperature, I think she wants it 61 at night or 61 heat and like 68 AC. Don't at me. I just follow directions. Do you ever want to change it? No. This is what I want. Well, you can do it from your phone. I don't care. I literally want these 2 temperatures. And And she was trying to explain this to people, and people are looking at her funny. And I go, can you just do what the lady says? Like, this is what she wants. And so this happens all the time. People get promoted. People want to send a photo to their kids using whatever software, and then they get permission. Do you want us to access your photos? And I understand what it means. You understand what it means. But the average person now has this really ominous warning. Like, are you going to allow this to happen? And then they hear the hackers are coming for us. So they don't know what to do. And then they just leave it there. And then they call me or they call somebody and somebody responds. But so Zoom probably said, I could see the Geek Squad or some sort of company doing remote tech help and saying, here, click this link and just follow directions. And the directions are like, just double click here and everything will be okay. It facilitates that tech support because clearly the people using it are going to need it. The problem is that, like you said, somebody else can leverage that and we can have bigger problems. They can go to geeksquad.co. I don't know if that's a site, don't go there. And click here for help, free help, installs the iframe, like you said. Now they have access to all this stuff.
Yeah, this is a really, really nasty vulnerability brought about simply because these developers wanted super easy access, super easy user interaction. And I get it, right? I develop applications for a living. That's what I do. And I understand that removing barriers to entry, removing the hurdles that people have to jump through just to use your software makes you better than the competition. I get it. The online meeting space, it's pretty hot right now, right? You've got tons and tons of companies competing in this space, trying to get users, trying to get dollars. I get it. I understand. But when you're building pieces of software that go on, tons of people's computers. The researcher, Jonathan, says that this was on, potentially vulnerable 4 million users. 4 million Mac users are vulnerable to this. As of 2015, Zoom had over 40 million users. It's got to be bigger than that today. But when you're building software that's going to be running in a lot of different places on a lot of different machines, you have to build it securely. You have to hire a security team. And honestly, you have to have an AppSec review process. If you don't, if you're a company that builds software without an application security review and release process, you are culpable. You are part of the problem.
Unfortunately, we keep on going back to, and the reason why we still do this podcast is security is expensive and it doesn't show anything forward facing. Hey, you spent $1 million securing this. Guess what? And I use the hashtag nobody cares, because you know what? Unless it's doing something positive for them, people are going to say, I don't really care. Wait, two-factor? I have to type this code in? It's going to make me safer. Well, it was safe before. Why do I need this? And that's the problem. Going to your boss saying, I need to spend money with nothing to show for it except more security is going to get you laughed out of the room. And until people start seeing that, it's not going to change.
Unfortunately, security, AppSec, InfoSec, like all the security organizations and departments, they're like the power company. They're like IT, right? Nobody cares unless something goes wrong. Then you hate those guys. Like when I worked in IT, did anyone ever come up to me and say, hey, the network's still running today. Great job, Tom. Thanks for that. No, they only came to us when stuff was broken and on fire, or when we haven't done our jobs properly, right? Do I care about my power company when the lights are on? No, why would I? They're doing their job. But as soon as the lights go off, those guys are the worst. I'm just as culpable as anyone else. And unfortunately, security is kind of in one of those same boats. It's expensive. And, if you're doing your job right, you have nothing to show for it.
And well, that's a good thing. I guess you always want to fly under the radar. You don't want people to know who you are, because then they know who to call when they want to complain. And it's never
there's that too.
It's maybe you said that nobody cares about internet and phone, but cable TV, apparently that's when people get mad. Like the phone could be down, the internet could be down, but you get somebody's cable TV off, they can't watch whatever flipping show they want or whatever news program or whatever it is, the world ends.
I think that's starting to flip. Like to the internet. But yeah, for the most part, that's kind of where we're at today.
So anyway, look, I was always going to say, you want to solve this problem quickly right now. If you're paranoid, just get a little Post-it note and put it over your webcam. That would help.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a pair of headphones, you know what? Stick that into your headphone jack. So that would stop the sound. And if you're really super paranoid, get a more industrial size Post-it note and get just a 3.5 millimeter cable and cut the end off, and that would stop the microphone. But I mean, I don't generally go to that extreme. I just put a little sticker over my webcam.
Here's more general software sanity, cleanliness, spring cleaning advice for all of our listeners out there. I am involved, unfortunately, in a lot of meetings with a lot of different people. And, sometimes it requires some weird software. Like I've got Slack, I've got Discord, I've got Hangouts on Air while it lives for the next 21 days. I've got a lot of things on my machine that I use to communicate with people. If you're not actively using it, if it's not part of your like weekly or even monthly routine, get rid of it. If you had to have a Zoom meeting that one time because Skype was being finicky, cool. Install Zoom, use it, get rid of it, and make sure that everything goes. And
get rid of Skype while you're at it.
Yeah. Like if you're not using a piece of software, honestly, it's better not to have it. Software has vulnerabilities and issues and taxes your resources. And if you can be without it, it's better for everyone.
And guess what? You can reinstall it later. Like it'll take 1 second.
Yeah.
You'll reinstall it later. And no one will look at you funny and say, hold on a second, I just got to install it. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So. Now, if it takes forever to install, like I've installed the full Adobe Creative Suite before. Like if it's a 3-hour install, I get it. Leave it alone. But if it's something like Skype, just get rid of it when you're not using it.
And the good thing is a lot of these companies are going to web only. So if you're just taking one meeting, like I think LogMeIn has a one-click support thing, where you click it and it does it. It doesn't really install something. It does it in the browser. Because again, the browsers for the most part are as secure, are your first line defense, and they're pretty good. So it's you choosing to install something that's the bad news. And as we see why, you go from there. So I like those give permission for the webcam on some random address that somebody's giving you that one, and two, you're actively searching for it. I think it's better than installing some other random piece of software.
I completely agree.
So, and that's what I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. Anyway, we're over time. Just a short answer. If you have Zoom and on a Mac, uninstall it. If you have Zoom and you're on a PC, maybe you just don't have it running all the time. Just turn it on when you need to. Same with the others. And if you're on Linux, I guess you know what you're doing at that point.
Check the show notes for the full uninstall. You really don't want that local web server running on your Mac, but Apple's update should take care of it for you automatically. So
just remember to restart, even if you don't need to. You know what? It's a good time to restart and update Chrome and Firefox and Safari and everything else. Okay, everybody, we're done. We will hopefully see you next week.
See you, everyone.
Bye.